Welcome to Golden Mastermind Seminars Radio with your host, Jeffery Combs.
Jeffery Combs, September 2nd, year of our Lord, 2025. Good to be here with you on the Golden Mastermind Seminars podcast. It is officially 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Good to be here with you on a beautiful September 2nd. In case you have not noticed, this year has flown by. It wasn't that long ago, it was January, and all of a sudden it is the beginning of September, and it's going to be the end of the era very soon. We're going to be in December soon, and you want to make sure that your dialogue with money this year has been conducive to the creation of it. And if it is not, then you'll find yourself in lack, scarcity, poverty consciousness, and an overwhelmed state of anxiety, fear, and doubt about your ability or inability to create and attract money. So good to be here with you. I began my money journey early in recovery by listening to content by Frederick Lehrman and reading books by the late Phil Lott, who I ended up buying the rights to his book, and I published two different versions of it. Money is My Friend. I published my first version of it in 2002 and the second version in 2005, and I sold over 10,000 units of these two books. I sold 10,000 copies of these books, originally 5,000 of this one and 5,000 of this one. And they sold out, the final one sold out, I believe, in 2015. And it used to be the only book I sold at the time. But as I started to write my books, I didn't promote as much. But the first 3 years, I sold 5,000 books of this right here, 5,000 books. And that was at my tables at events live. That was with no promotion and no online branding in any situation like that. So good to be here with you on Tuesday, Facebook Live with Money Mastery. I'm going to go ahead and let the Facebook Live populate as I move into the inspirational portion of today's Facebook Live. Tomas, good to see you this afternoon. Honored to be your coach. And Tomas says hello to all. I'll be covering some golden rules today when it comes to your dialogue with money. If you want to follow along with the email that I send out, if you're on my email list, this goes out every Monday before the Tuesday call. And then on Facebook Live or on Facebook, I also give you the promo for the podcast. So today we're going to move into this right here, the content for today's Facebook Live. Here's what you'll discover in this week's training is your dialogue with money. What is your dialogue with money? Now, it can evolve and can revolve, but your dialogue with money that you grew up with through the 20,000 meals with the wrong financial planners, that would be your parents. What was that dialogue with money like in your early childhood? What was the communication about money growing up? Money doesn't grow on trees. Money is difficult. A lot of families speak of the difficulty and the scarcity of money, and if that was spoken in your family, there's a high probability that you will be in your own money scarcity. As you have a healthier dialogue with yourself, a healthier dialogue with your money, and healthy dialogue in higher consciousness, as you move into the flow, prosperity, reciprocity, and other areas of consciousness with your dialogue with money, you'll feel much more deserving and much more worthy of being able to create, attract, develop, and into your reality, create the money that you deserve in free enterprise in a relaxed body. And the more comfortable you come with yourself, then that energy that you exude can be able to be transmuted into the universe. The universe doesn't give you what you want. The universe showcases who you are. Aaron, good to see you this afternoon. Kevin Paulson, always good to see you. So it's an honor to be here with those of you who are here with me this afternoon on Facebook, on my Golden Mastermind Seminars podcast. And this podcast goes around the world. So we upload it onto YouTube, and we have followers all over the world that follow this. And I've been on YouTube practically since the beginning. So it's good to be here with you this afternoon on your money mastery. Today was payday, was payroll day for me. The banks were closed yesterday, so money moved from my various accounts into my corporation, then went into disbursements, then taxes were paid online, And that's how money moves for me. So payroll today was today. Myself, my employees were paid, and then the taxes were paid. And now we're back to square one for the beginning of the month, creating the money to be in free enterprise in business. And it's important that you become skilled at the movement of money to your bank accounts. That's provided you have more than one account. And money is moving freely and easily to your accounts in a relaxed body. And if that is not happening, then there's a reason that your dialogue with money isn't conducive to the creation of it. You're living in scarcity consciousness, lack consciousness, overwhelmed feelings, and a multitude of other situations that will keep you recreating the same situation to fulfill the same set of feelings. And on the email that we send out to the database, it says your early money mentors. Who are your early money mentors? The most empowering money mentor I had was an older gentleman named Harold Martin. He was in his 80s when I was when I was barely a teenager, and I worked for him. He lived down the highway from my parents. He was a landowner. He owned multiple properties, and he owned interest in a bank in Omaha, Nebraska, and he owned interest in a hotel. He was also the first hard money lender I ever met. He used to lend money to farmers at 8% interest, and he wrote handwritten contracts to farmers in the area, and then they would pay him back at 8%. And on his deathbed, he asked me to drive across the state of Iowa after I'd been through a very tumultuous time in my life. I was rock bottom broke. I'd lost everything at 31 years old. I was still drinking, and he was dying, and he asked me to come visit him. I drove 4 hours from across the state, saw him on his deathbed, and he handed me a check for $10,000. He treated me as a son. I worked for him from the time I was 13 till the time I was 20. I worked on his farm, his ranch. I baled hay. I drove his tractors. I put hay up in the barn. I tended to his livestock. And I worked my ass off, and it was dirty, sweaty, and it was extremely good skill set. And I learned how to fix fences. I learned how to roof. I learned how to do a lot of contracting. Contracting. My grandfather was also a money mentor. He was a millionaire landowner and a man that I was mentored by, and he also owned a franchise. He put up steel bins. I became very skilled at working for him, doing all forms of contracting that eventually allowed me to be very skilled when it came to home reconstruction, which is also can be a money skill for you. What money skills do you have that will allow you to monetize your skills, habits, and mindset? Well, if you have contracting skills, that's one situation. If you sell insurance, real estate, those are good skills to master. That is direct sales. Direct sales is a very, very key business to be able to monetize because you can leverage yourself through direct selling. And that is through attraction marketing, being able to attract your reality, quality, like-minded success seekers that seek your knowledge, seek your content, seek your products, seek your benefits, and seek your services. So when you are no longer the mind-body connection to the events that shape the feelings, and you are very, very dialed in with your money mindset, your dialogue with money, when you are skilled at attracting people, you'll be able to attract the money with it. So, as I said earlier in the Facebook Live, the universe doesn't give you what you want. The universe rewards you for the feelings that you're feeling. So you'll attract your reality, people that will show up, that will showcase your low self-esteem as long as you continue to live in that. And as you begin to let go of your anxiety, fear, and doubt, as you move into higher consciousness, your law of averages will improve in who and what you attract. Ideally, the objective is to be able to have minimal marketing, organic or holistic marketing, or be able to meet people at meetup groups where you're not paying for marketing, and you're able to attract clients through being able to connect with people or through referral-based communication, and then also value and service. Through the value and service you perform, people refer you business. I mean, that is the ideal way that people would show up in your inbox, your mailbox, your email, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, any multitude of situations that you have a place called more leads than time. And so that is leverage when you have leads. When you don't have leads, you're in lead poverty, you're in lead scarcity, and this is a common place that many people live in. Now, here is some lawful legal money. This is a $20 gold piece. You've seen me showcase this. This is an Augustus St. Gaudens. This was minted in 1927. It was originally an idea in the late 1890s through Theodore Roosevelt and Augustus St. Gaudens, who was the artist for the Walking Liberty coin. It's a beautiful piece of numismatic history. 13 stars. Now, are those the 13 stars or the 13 fallen angels? I mean, that's for you to understand down that rabbit hole. Here's a $10 gold piece. It's a little smaller. I paid, as you can see, $400 for this back in 1997. And this is an uncirculated coin. So this has a great value today. So in 97, I paid $395 for it. It would be more than triple that. Uncirculated means that it never went into anyone's hands. This is a very rare piece of numismatic history. I have a few pieces like this. I also have a few $100 bills pre-1933 that say payable to bearer on demand and in gold coin. So that's what the bills used to say prior to America going off the gold standard. America's whole money system went into a dramatic change between 1912 and 1914 with the advent of the Federal Reserve banking system. And that system is not federal, and there are no reserves. That was a cabal of the richest men in the world that conspired. They conspired control the money in the world. And that would be the Rothschild, Rockefeller banking cabal, along with John Jacob Astor, Andrew Carnegie, and the billionaires of that era that would be the techno billionaires of our era today. They were the industrialists of the era. Cornelius Vanderbilt was one of them. 3 of them were on the Titanic, and the theory goes that they opposed the Federal Reserve, and there's a possibility that there was some foul play that went on in that situation. Do your history on that. You can find Laura Sanger on Instagram, Laura, Sanger. She has deep content down the rabbit hole on the history of the bloodline of all the presidents. 31 of the presidents have blue eyes, and all are related except one. And along with that, she does a deep dive on the history of the Federal Reserve and what happened off the coast of Georgia on an island called Jekyll Island, when multiple men meet at the estate, the Vanderbilt estate, where the Internal Revenue Service and the Federal Reserve Bank Act come out of that, and Woodrow Wilson is the president for 8 years who facilitates that, and he's also part of so a lot happened between 1912 and 1920 in American history. Harding becomes the president in 20, but between 12, which is after Roosevelt, not Theodore Roosevelt, between 1912 and 1920 is the Federal Reserve Bank Act, the Internal Revenue Service, the Francis Ferdinand, the Duke of Prussia, is assassinated. World War I begins in 1914. World War II begins for America in 1917. The Spanish flu is introduced, if you know your history there, in 1918. And then soldiers bring this pandemic back to America, so it becomes the first scare for the future vaccines. And then in the 20s, the Rockefeller Foundation takes over the schooling for all medical schools, and they begin to eliminate a systematic approach to eliminating holistic and naturopathic medicine is orchestrated along with osteopaths, which are DOs, doctors of osteopathic medicine, and chiropractors are considered quacks. And so then World War II happens, and this is another boom for the munitions industry. And the pharmacy industry is launched into the next level. 1948, pornography is launched, and then 53 with the magazine Playboy, with Marilyn Monroe and with Hugh Hefner. And then the Rockefeller Foundation also establishes women's liberation in the 50s so that women go to work. It begins to break up the household. And then silicone injections start to become prevalent in the late 50s and 60s. And then the age of vanity is launched throughout the 60s into the 70s. And now you're seeing full scale with products like Ozempic and semaglutide. And so you're just watching if you're watching and witnessing what's happening in the world, it can be head swiveling. And so it's important you understand all the history I just covered is a byproduct of the foundation of the money system that we are in today. And ever since the 90s, I've been constantly told that the money system is about to change. We're going to go off the set standard. We're going to go on to digital currency. And every year we're told more and more that we're getting closer and closer to this. And so is your dialogue with money conducive to the creation of it? Ask yourself, is my dialogue with money conducive to the creation of money? And if it's not, then it's going to be your responsibility to be able to let go of your anxiety about the outcome, let go of your anxiety, fear, and doubt about scarcity, be able to step into higher consciousness and prosperity, prospero, be able to attract your reality, quality, like-minded success seekers who want to collaborate and partner with you. And as you become more skilled at selling, asking, deserving, and receiving, you'll be able to attract your reality more frequently, people in higher consciousness. And higher consciousness is what you're seeking to be and stay in. And most of society, the world society, oscillates and transmute at a level of consciousness below 200 cycles a second. Only 22% of the world lives in higher consciousness. And the reason that is because we're so addicted to scarcity, poverty, and lack. And we're also addicted to the foods that we have eaten. And we also, thank you, Diane, good to see you on today's Facebook Live. And we are so traumatized through trauma-based mind control that most of the world they just sleepwalk through the world waiting for their next addiction. And I mean, there's just so many ways and opportunities to become addicted so that people can check out rather than be holistic, naturopathic. And then if you're marketing holistic naturopathic products, you're often laughed at or said that these things don't work. And because we're so conditioned to conventional medicine. And we're so conditioned, just like that, the two-party system. We're conditioned to vote in the two-party system. We've just been absolutely groomed and been trauma-based mind control to just sleepwalk through life, and that's your responsibility to wake up, to step out of the matrix, to access higher consciousness, to activate the pineal gland, the calcification of it. And if you're on Instagram at all, there's just hundreds of videos of Dr. Joe Dispenza. So it is just amazing how Dispenza has actually become a cultural phenomenon. I had the privilege of knowing him in 2006. I actually hired him to speak for me in Los Angeles, California. I paid $2,500 for Dispenza to speak for me for 2 hours at the Gateway Sheraton Hotel for 120 of my clients. And then in 2008, he spoke for me again for $3,500 with John Assaraf at the same event, who was featured in The Secret and wrote the book, The Answer, if you're not familiar with it. He's written lots of content. Both of them are experts on the brain, as I have become that myself, and have a deeper understanding of how the pineal gland is calcified. The amygdala, which is the emotional engine that searches for a familiar feeling, is primarily locked in the anxiety, fear, and doubt of the reptilian brain, looking for a lion and a tiger or someone to violate them. And when you're in this scarcity consciousness, then your voice is changed. The tone of your voice is lowered. I've assisted many people to find their real voice, speak completely from their tone, let go of the kindas, the guesses, and the I don't knows. If you're aware, you will hear Americans and Canadians say kinda, guess, and I don't know. I don't know is very unique because people will say it. I don't know. They say it randomly in sentences, completely unaware that they're saying it. And what it does is it showcases, when they keep saying I don't know, it showcases the doubt they live in. Your lower self is anxiety, fear, and doubt, and that is called an ego. The ego in my world is not your arrogant or eccentric. The ego is the lower self that chronically looks for a feeling to latch onto that is familiar. The ego does not want to leave its nest. The ego wants to stay in the familiar. This is why the ego gets very upset and is very challenged at the possibility of letting go. And this is why people stay in dysfunctional relationships, dysfunctional jobs, And then they'll make up stories like, I'm not sure if I can make it on my own. I'm not sure if I can live without being in this trauma. And people will stay in dysfunctional relationships because these very situations, they'll stay in their dysfunctional families, recreating the same situation, and they're 40, 50, 60, and they're still in the same trauma. And the more that you stay in these relationships, the more challenging it is to let go, because emotions have a tolerance. And so as you're creating a tolerance, a high tolerance to your anxiety, fear, and doubt, it becomes more difficult to let go, because that's what the ego knows. That's what the ego controls. And that is called a payoff. Until you access the courage, you access the acceptance, the willingness, and then you step into the forgiveness and the gratitude, you'll just keep recreating the same situation to fulfill the same set of feelings. When you are no longer the mind-body connection, this is Louis Hay's term, when you are no longer the mind-body connection, that's the traumatic events that the body holds on to. Were you a bedwetter? Could you not sleep at night? Were you spanked with wooden spoons? I mean, there's a multitude of situations for you to have a better understanding of why you do what you do. And if you keep telling yourself you had a great childhood but you didn't, then you're living in denial. The reason that most people have challenges accessing courage, because their ego lives in denial. They deny the facts, deny the truth, and keep recreating the same situation to fulfill the same set of feelings. When you are no longer the mind-body connection, that means that you're free. That means you're in the separation stage. But when you're bonded, when you're in a trauma bond, it's the neurons that wire and fire are just automatic. It's automatic fight or flight. It's automatic avoid the telephone. It's automatic build a business. It's automatic avoid the business. And that's what so many people do. And then they go to the rallies, conventions, workshops, seducing themselves that they're actually doing something when they're doing nothing. Because then the ego has to be active. This is why the lower self-ego has challenges meditating. It can't fathom 5 to 10 minutes of nothing. The ultimate meditation is nothing. When you're meditating, you're in a state of nothing. If you're thinking, you're not meditating, you're thinking, you're processing. If you're dreaming, you're not meditating, you're dreaming. And dream is an exceptional state, but the ideal state to be in is a state of your brain called gamma. And gamma is accessed through the pineal gland by letting go of the trauma-based mind control, being non-attached to outcomes, being able to be in the flow, in peace, being able to attract to your reality quality, like-minded people more easily and effortlessly than most of society and most of the world. This requires skills, habits, mindset, discipline, diligence over a period of time that you can monetize your talents, your skills, your habits. And this, now you can begin to attract your reality, the outcome that you dream of, the outcome you speak into existence. But you have to have the skills, habits, and mindset. You're developing them along the way. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be practical. And if you don't have a system, a routine, or a way to operate, you'll just keep recreating the same situation to recreate the same set of feelings, which becomes the payoff. And when you have a better understanding of this, now you're creating the let go process. Letting go is the most important skill you ever master, and it'll allow you to master your emotions so you can master creating the commerce, the traffic, the money that you require to live a good life. And that comes from the repetition, the experience, preparation, execution, closing sales, building a team, leading people by example, and mentoring the few who deserve mentoring. You learn two different ways in free enterprise. You learn by your mistakes and you learn by your mentors. And the more that you understand that context, not the content, but the more that you're living that context, the higher the probability that you'll attract other people who believe what you believe. My name is Jeffery Combs. I'm the president and founder of Golden Mastermind Seminars Incorporated. If you yourself are seeking one-on-one coaching, feel free to reach out to me. Or if you know someone that deserves my coaching, go ahead and refer that person or persons to me at Facebook Messenger. I would be honored to speak to them on your behalf. Breathe, release, and let go in a relaxed body. Have a great afternoon, everyone.